Alright everyone, welcome back to another video. Last time we left off with the Russians bomb the Finns in the Karelian front, and talking about how, or I guess more why, the Finns joined the Axis a little bit. We're now on to the German steam roller advances on the Caucasus. October 6th to 14th, 1941. Russia lose Mariupol and Berdyansk. Berdyansk? The German crossing of the Dnieper at Kremchug was a serious threat to the Russian armies in the Ukraine. Not only did it help bring the fall of Kyiv, but it threatened the whole of the Russian defenses on the east bank of the Dnieper and made it imperative that they should straighten and consequently shorten their lines. In addition, the enemy succeeded in ferrying troops across the wide lower reaches of the river under strong aerial protection and in pushing on towards the Crimea. On September 25th, fierce fighting was reported at Kherson, and a few days later, the enemy had reached the Perkop Isthmus and was endeavoring to force its way into the Crimea. Meanwhile, another thrust along the shores of the Sea of Azov pushed the Russians back to Berdyansk and Mariupol, which fell on October 6th and 14th, respectively. Further north, where the great industrial city of Kharkov was threatened, the Russians launched counterattacks, particularly in the Kursk area, with the objective of relieving the enemy pressure. The pictures show left, German infantry supported by tanks in action in the streets of Mariupol. Right, the destruction of the railway station, which was dynamited by Russians before the evacuation. So here we see the Germans entering Mariupol with a tank, obviously, as they said here. And there we see that railway station just being blown up. And obviously the Russians did this, same like they've been burning down buildings and stuff like that we've seen in previous videos, to basically ensure that the Germans cannot use the stuff. They'd have to repair it, things like that, which will take a lot of time and hopefully slow them down. Just gotta make sure this is the next page. Yes, it is. Moscow begins to feel the grip of the German pincers. October 7th to 19th, 1941. Russian capital holds out. The third German drive towards Moscow began on October 1st with pincer thrusts in the Roslav and Kolm areas. By the 7th, the enemy were in Orel and were exerting heavy pressure on near Bryansk and Vyazma, which resulted in the fall of these towns on the 12th and 13th, respectively. 2 days later, a German column penetrated as far as Mozhensk, but was driven back by well-timed counterattacks. The seriousness of the situation was admitted by the Russians, who announced that the Germans were using about 18,000 tanks alone on this front. On the 19th, after the fall of Kalinin and Kaluga, Stalin issued an order of the day declaring that Moscow would be defended to the last man, and, at the same time, a state of siege was proclaimed in the capital. The pictures show, top left, Russian prisoners, here, I'll just say it as I go, Russian prisoners captured during the fighting at Bryansk. You can see all them. There's a lot of prisoners there. Yeah, the Russians, or I should say the Soviets. I keep saying the Russians. The Soviets, not just the Russians. But the Soviets, yeah, they get a lot of prisoners of war. Like, not them, but they do too. But the Germans capture a lot. The amounts are absurd in the amounts captured in some of these encirclements. Bottom left, men of the Funny Mustache Man Corps passing through a burnt-out village. Probably a typical sight for them at this point. Top right, women and children sheltering from artillery fire. Which, when you look at this, it's like, man, they don't really have much shelter at all. Hiding behind this wooden shack. It's real unfortunate that that's all they had to defend themselves, basically. And then bottom right, a German tank in Vyazma. Vyazma? Yeah. A French port gets going over from the RAF. October 15th, 1941. Le Havre bombed. During October, the RAF carried out an almost daily attack on objectives in enemy-occupied France. Huge 4-engine Sterlings, like that seen above, dodging enemy flak, took part in many of these raids, as did also Hurricane fighters equipped to carry two 250-pound bombs. The lower picture shows an attack by Blenheims on the docks of Havre on the 15th. The number indicate, okay, so we're gonna go there. That's the Sterling, by the way. And then here is the bombings, and as I go, I'm gonna try to point to them. So number 1, bombs bursting on a 12,000-ton tanker moored alongside the quay. Right there. So you can see that huge tanker right there, and it's just, you can see the big bomb just burst right on top of it. Number 2, so literally right here, a direct hit with a heavy caliber bomb on a 5,000-ton ship. So again, you see a big ship, huge bomb bursting on it. Number 3, a near miss, which you can see there's the miss, I believe. A near miss on a 9,500-ton vessel. So that vessel, lucky, near miss. It's very close. Number 4. Where's number 4? There's number 4. Bombs hitting the quay. So there we can see it. There's the bombs hitting it. And then number 5 is actually 2 places, here and here. Damage done to a warehouse. Okay, so this is just one warehouse, and that's just 2 different instances of damage. Very interesting. Odessa Falls, the end of an epic siege. October 16th, 1941. Russians evacuate Odessa. The Black Sea, part of Odessa, the Black Sea port of Odessa, was occupied by the Germans and Romanians forces on October 16th, after a siege that had lasted since August. The evacuation, which was carried out in perfect order, was dictated by events in the eastern Ukraine and the consequent need of more men to reinforce the Crimea, where the enemy, after crossing the Dnieper, was trying to force an entry through the narrow Pictorial Isthmus. Before leaving the port, the Russians destroyed all important works. The pictures show top citizens cheering the Russian rearguard as they moved up. Now, it shows them cheering, but obviously this could also be propaganda. Just saying. This book is a little biased, obviously, with the showing an ally being in good order. But it also could be that citizens are like, yeah, you guys did good. Go on, keep fighting, men. That's always possible, too. I'm not trying to paint one picture or another. Just making sure I paint a full picture, not just half a picture. And then below, a German Panzer vehicle. That's just all it says. There we go. You can see them in their Panzer vehicles. Moving on up. They're being obviously in a middle attack, I think. That's what it looks like here. With the explosions, looks like maybe going off. I don't know. Either that or that guy's smoking, which he could be. But yeah. Yeah, Odessa Falls. The Soviets do end up stopping the Germans from getting into the Crimea. And yeah, they do a lot here, which is really good. It's good that they were able to hold out. But the cost, and it's almost like, well, it's good that they held out, but the cost is astronomical. It's almost one of those things of, was it worth it? Once again, I've said that before, but I'll say it again. It's hard to say if it was worth it or not. But that's going to do it for this video. If you guys liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a comment. Tell me what I can improve on. I always appreciate your feedback. And as always, subscribe. It really does help out the channel. We're almost at 1,000, so that's great. So thank you.